Welcome back to Built Fabrications. Today we're going to be removing gauge clusters as well as the rest of the AC ducting and some more of that shoddy wiring underneath the dash.
You can see the riding on the pavement. Young kids, they're growing up in basements.
So if you're going to be removing the gauge cluster on your truck, it's pretty simple, but there are a few steps that you need to do to get this out without breaking anything. So the first of which is we need to remove both of these knobs here. The one is for the lights and the other one is for the windshield wiper. First thing that you're gonna need to do to remove the light switch is you wanna pull it out all the way. And then if you reach your hand up underneath the dash, there's gonna be a box. And on top of that, there's a button that you depress. And you hold that button down and then you remove this knob. So whenever you have that taken out, put it off to the side. Then you got this lock nut of sorts. Unscrew it. That's going to be it for this guy. For the windshield wipers, this one has a set screw that you need to remove. So you need a very small flathead screwdriver to remove this. You don't have to unscrew it all the way, just loosen it up enough and it'll come off. So that's going to be underneath there. And then you have a set screw here as well. With both of these off, the next step that you're going to want to do is remove these 6 Phillips head screws. Slide this out. Don't pull it all the way out yet because you're going to have the main wiring harness for this, as well as if you have an oil pressure gauge that's manual, you're going to have that fitting on there as well. To remove the wiring harness, you just have these 2 tabs on either side that you depress and pull it out. And then if you do have an oil pressure gauge like this truck does, you're just going to need to use a 5/16 wrench and you loosen up that oil line. If your truck has a carpet interior in it, you probably want to grab a rag so that no oil drips on your interior. In this case, we don't really have to worry about that. So with that out, one last thing that you need to remove is your speedometer cable, and that just unscrews really easily and pops right out. And that's it to remove the gauge cluster. So you can see on the back, this is where you'd have your main plug. This is the oil fitting, and then the speedometer cable will go in here. With the gauge cluster out of the way, we have really good access to everything behind the dash. We get to the rest of this ducting, and then we can see all the rest of this wiring that's in here. So I'm gonna get started on getting the rest of this stuff out that I was having a hard time removing with the gauge cluster in. So to remove the radio, at least the one that we have installed in this truck, I know there's going to be different ones depending on, if anything was put in, it's aftermarket or factory. I'm not sure if this is, I almost want to say that this is an aftermarket radio, but I might be wrong on that. So don't quote me. But for this radio to remove it, you have knobs that you just pull straight off. There are backer tuners on that as well. And then you have some nuts that tighten down that you need to loosen. So I'm going to get those loosened, and that should allow this face plate to pop off and show us what else is going to be holding this together. So the next thing to remove is going to be the lock nuts for the windshield wiper switch as well as the lights. So we'll get that knocked out. After that, we have, looks like 3 plugs that go to the, might be 2 or 3 plugs that go to the windshield wiper motor. We're gonna get those unplugged. So I just pulled this out of the firewall, and a user actually put a comment on one of my older videos on what this was or is. and it is the main plug. These are the wires that go to the rear lights on the truck, and I was not aware that this was a plug, and so I cut these wires, but unbeknownst to me, it's a plug that you could just disconnect and pull out. I wasn't aware. Hopefully, if you guys are going to be doing something this similar process to your truck, you watch all these videos before you go ahead and do the same thing. And if you're unfortunate like me and you cut them before knowing this, sorry, we're in the same boat. Oops. So no big deal, but definitely a good thing to know. So I'll plug this back in so we know what it is in the future and continue on. Now I'm going to unplug some things that I have no idea what they are or what they do. With all the wiring removed and disconnected, the last thing that we really need to remove is the fuse box itself. To do that, there is going to be a 5/16 screw in the top left corner as well as the bottom right. Whenever we get that unscrewed, the fuse box should just come right out. With the gauge cluster out and all the wiring removed as well as the radio, we are pretty much wide open behind the dash. We have the speaker that's still in there as well as the wiper motor that's right there in front of you that I'll remove at a later date. And then we also have the dash pad. I'll probably make a video on how to remove that. With everything out, it's really simple. With everything still in the truck, it's a pain. So, but I'll show you how you would remove that in a future video. One thing that I did leave, at least for now, is there's a wire here that jumps across and it has a plug. And where it goes to is the door striker that turns on the dome light whenever you open the door. I unscrewed that and it's got a connection here that I can undo. My only concern is, if you can see, let me bring the light in. It goes to this grommet and then just kind of snakes through here, and I'm not exactly sure if I remove that, how I would get that through without being a major pain. So for the time being, I'm probably gonna leave that wire in there. It jumps across and it swings over to the other side to do the same exact thing for the other door striker. And that wire there is just a ground wire that was twisted with the radio. So I just need to unscrew that, but that's all disconnected. It's not going anywhere. Got the gauge cluster removed. We have the factory wiring harness removed as well. Got a lot to chew on here. Gonna have to go through all this wiring and see if it's usable, see what the condition of all the different connectors are, as well as different areas that may have been cut and either wire netted together, or worse, in some places I saw where wires are just twisted together and taped up, that's no bueno. If we do reuse this factory wiring harness, we'll have to trim some things out, mainly a lot of the stuff in the AC controls. We will keep some of it because in the future I would like to do an aftermarket AC system. I don't know if that's going to be a sooner or later thing. It's going to have to be something we look at the billfold, look in our pocketbook and see how much dinero we have in there and make that call at that point. But regardless of the fact, the cab's just about all the way stripped down. We have the dash pad, which I'll probably make a video on how to remove it, as well as we have the brake pedal assembly and the booster and master cylinder, which is really no big deal there. And then we also have that one speaker in the dash and the windshield wiper motor. Again, I mean, there's really nothing to it for those. So, but besides that, this cab is stripped down. We're ready to move on. And yeah, it's gonna pretty much do the video. And yeah, so if you like the video, give it a like, subscribe to the channel if you're not already. We started an Instagram page. If you'd like to, follow us on that. It kind of has shorter form content. If you're into that, a lot of the times things post on there before the video comes out. So if you want a little bit of a sneak peek, that's definitely a good place to check it out. But yeah, you guys get out there, get wrenched on something, piss off your neighbor, disappoint your mom. Until next time, keep on keeping on.
You can see the writing on the pavement. Young kids, they're growing up in basements. Online, a whole new generation. I'ma make mine, so you better go take it. Always, they need a new replacement. Decentralized, can't contain it. We're changing lives, yeah, upgrading. Call it suicide of the older generation. but not yet. Make all the